on edge.
It's 1:10 p.m. on November 4th, 2025, and we call to order this hearing with the Board of County Commissioners and the Planning Department. We have one item on the agenda. This is a continuation for file ZC 0002-25, zone change from rural 5 to suburban. I went back and reviewed the video from the initial hearing, and we had closed public comment and moved into board deliberation before deciding as a two-member board to continue the hearing, to have the third commissioner present for the decision. So before we continue deliberation, I think it would be wise for us to go through and confirm conflicts of interest since we have an additional commissioner now. So I can start and say that Commissioner Domke has no conflicts of interest.
Commissioner Williams has no conflicts.
Commissioner Korn has no conflicts.
All right. So since this is a continuation of board deliberation, we could just pick up with the decision-making worksheet and walk through that together, or we can review any aspect of the staff report that you might like to, Commissioner Williams.
Commissioner, I think there's some confusion on that. Sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
I think the applicant was under the impression they need to bring additional information, and that was the reason for the continuation.
Was there something that was asked for? Did we ask for something?
I believe the applicant could probably answer that question a little bit better, but I'm not sure if you're open to having that conversation.
So before we do that, what Commissioner Domke did was he reviewed how this hearing ended last time. And what he said was that it was public hearing closed, deliberation began. That was the way that it ended. So are we questioning that that's how it ended from a planning standpoint? Because we might need to confirm that and share that ending.
Yeah, I'd like to confirm that if that's in question, because my understanding reviewing the video was that we had closed public comment and moved into board deliberation, and that the Commissioner Korn and myself, through deliberation, determined that we were on opposite sides of the spectrum with our view on the file, and that we had offered to continue it to have the third commissioner available. I don't see anything that indicated that we were requesting additional information.
So I'm going to add an element to what the play is. It's public testimony gets closed. In order to move into deliberation, the hearing itself gets closed.
Correct.
And so let's play back what took place and then determine how to move forward.
I'm pulling up the minutes from that meeting right now.
Commissioner Domke is also pulling up that video.
Comprehensive plan.
You want to share it?
I'm looking, I want to confirm
Okay.
the time. All right, seeing no public comment, we're going to close the public comment period and move into board deliberation. So,
Did one of us ask for more information on something?
that's what I'm wondering during deliberation. That's the only thing I'm not positive about.
Right.
Because I didn't review the full deliberation time through the video. I just confirmed that we had closed the public comment and moved into deliberation. So
Right.
this was on August 13th.
So if the,
August 13th. So in August, we continued to September, and then in September, the applicant asked us to continue to now. So the only
So-
thing I've observed so far in the video recording was that we closed public comment and moved into board deliberation. So it's possible that during board deliberation, a commissioner requested additional information, but that would have to be confirmed.
So then my position would be that the commissioners that were present should make the decision on this file, because I have a specific position on hearing. We've had this come up before where I said a hearing is all the information that we have added, not adding into it. And I've argued kind of from that point. So if it's the impression of the applicant and planning that they were being told that they could bring in additional information with this continuation, which might be in line with why they requested additional time, I don't know that, then the sitting commissioners that heard this, even if you guys end up with a 1-to-1, it is still a decision, because there is a procedure by which a tie results in a decision by the board, that the two of you should make the decision on this particular file. And you could err on the side of caution of hearing that information as presented, if that was the understanding, and then make the decision between the two of you.
Yeah, I just want to confirm what we,
I don't recall exactly what was said, but it does seem odd to me that the applicant would want an extension if there was no reason. Well, I don't know what the reasoning would be, other than that maybe the applicant themselves wanted to be here, which they're not. I don't recall asking for more information, but I'm not saying that it wasn't either.
Sometimes there can be an assumption also that people think because something's continued that they have more time to add something into it.
Right.
So the downside is you would be allowing information into a record that you closed, which is a downside, because the record, by the stage that you were in, the hearing itself was in fact closed. And so did all sides have an understanding that it was open to add more in, which would have oftentimes that includes additional public comment on something, or
right, and the motion to continue was simply a motion to continue to a specific date and time. It was not, there was no additional language in the motion. So to reopen the record, I personally would need to have evidence that there was a specific allowance to do so. Otherwise, I think we'd be in violation of the hearing procedures.
And we're not finding anything in the minutes, Alex, that states that.
I don't have the minutes for that.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
the problem with minutes are, do you have it in what you wrote?
I have it in what I wrote.
Oh, okay.
I didn't write anything down about you requesting additional information. The biggest things you guys talked about were how you didn't feel like you really fit either zone, the zone that it's in now or the zone they were requesting. And one of the biggest hangups was the lack of hard surface roads. And Commissioner Corn said that he would be willing to look past that, given it would be required to be made a hard surface road by the time
As part of the subdivision
Yes,
process.
but you did not agree, and so you guys were kind of at an impasse on that, and that's where you ended.
Right.
But what the problem with that is, minutes are
Yeah.
highlights, it's not a transcript. And so I think your first step is to decide the applicant is here with additional information with under a belief that they feel. The only way to be confident on whether or not the two of you said they could submit more information is to actually have it reviewed or to pull an official transcript. So what's the position of the board on? Because it sounds like you're
I don't recall asking
at-
for more information. I don't know what information, I'm trying to look at this file and I don't know what information that we would be asking for. So if it's not in the motion and it's not in the minutes and it's not in my recollection either, I would have to say that I don't think that we asked for more information. I don't know your opinion is on that.
Yeah, so staff doesn't have any notes or indication of,
I'm reviewing the transcript as best as YouTube can do it.
You can ask the applicant what they brought you without having it explained to see if it jogs your memory.
well, if the board's okay, I'm fine with asking the applicant's representative what they believe the situation was that the hearing was continued under, but like I said, I want to have proof that we actually, we're allowing the record to be reopened if we're going to do so. Otherwise, I don't have any evidence thus far that indicates we should or can. So, Mr. Provolt, do you have information regarding, do you believe that there's something in the record indicating that there was allowance for additional information for the continuation of this hearing?
Okay, a couple of things, Dan Provolt here. A couple of things, the last one that we had that we deliberated on, that was 1 vote no, 1 vote yes. And so you gave me the opportunity to wait until we had Commissioner Williams to place a vote, rather than 1 and 1. This would be the third one. Commissioner Williams would then need to understand and hear the hearing, so she could have.
Mr. Provolt, I'm not asking you to make an argument for why you think we should do something. I'm asking if you have evidence, if you have something to present that tells us that we actually allowed a request, we were allowing for or requesting additional information to be presented. You're trying to build an argument for why you want something, but not, I need to hear actual evidence as to whether or not.
Okay, so one of the reasons for saying no was that we didn't have urban services.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to stop you because you're trying to present additional information into the record. I'm not hearing anything that's.
Well, it was under my understanding that there was more additional information allowed, and so.
Okay, I think that was a misunderstanding. I'm sorry if that was misunderstood, but we clearly, during that hearing, I clearly, as the chair of that, closed public comment and moved into board deliberation. And when we continue from where we left off.
So that doesn't include my last show that we put off until November 4th from that last one to continue so that I could bring forth more information.
It sounds to me as if you unfortunately made an assumption that you'd be able to present additional information at the continuation, even though I don't see any evidence that that was actually how that hearing was left.
So there's no validity then to a yes and a no and waiting for a third vote.
So when I hear what you're saying, it's that you made an assumption that because, I'm going to be clear and actually correct, I don't believe that you got a yes and a no. You got a direction that led you to a tied vote. And so I think that I'm confident in saying that I'm understanding it as you believe that the continuance was inherently allowing you to add something into it. The question you are being asked is, did either of these commissioners that were present tell you that you could add something into the hearing when it gets rescheduled? And it sounds like you're saying no, but you're making an argument for why it's reasonable to add. Is that an accurate understanding of what you took from the last hearing?
I would say that's very close.
Okay.
If I can add a little
No,
more.
only
sorry,
yes or no.
no.
Did Commissioner Donkey specifically say in that hearing that you could add additional information at the next hearing when I was present?
I would not understand how you could place a vote and be
That's-
that third vote.
so my understanding is that he didn't.
So that's how I validated that.
And I think that does answer it. I understand the misunderstanding, but I think it's clear that they didn't advise that you could add anything new, but that the idea of a continuation allowed you to believe that you could add something new. I understand your position, but they are based on your answer is what I'm taking this from, not based on the record, but your answer is they did not instruct that you could add more into the record at the next hearing. That's how I believe that I can extrapolate and feel strong on that. The question here is, how do we proceed in the deliberation phase because the public hearing was actually closed? And so, given that I was not part of the proceedings itself, what I would like to do is hear the discussion in real time as we're going back and forth through this, from the point at which it was left off, not going backwards in time, reserving the right that as a sitting commissioner, no matter where in a hearing, a sitting commissioner can ask a question of somebody but we're not revisiting it, even if that's me asking legal for input on something. So let's start from where you guys left off in deliberation and maybe going through that worksheet without presenting the case, because anything that I add into it after watching something can be seen as me adding in something that someone wouldn't get a rebuttal on, and it's confusing on its own. So let's just start from where we left off and see where we come up with. How's
So I
that?
think walking through the worksheet and offering each commissioner's perspective sounds like the most effective and efficient path forward then.
Yes, and then we can give just a kind of a summary of this is what this request is, and what we're hearing in general for the kind of the face sheet of this hearing.
And I just want to pause to say, for our legal counsel, who unfortunately has come into this cold, but from everything you've heard, Nate, do you disagree with any of the perspectives that have been offered? Do you have any other advice?
Nate Adams from the prosecutor's office. No, I think that's appropriate. You've closed public comments, and so you've continued it, but you've already closed the public comment. So without explicitly asking for additional information, I think you're stuck with the information that you had.
Thank you. I just want to be sure we follow procedurally that we're correct.
Yep, you're good.
Thank
And
you.
while Nate's standing up there, I want to add that it wasn't just that we closed public comment, but that the record reflects that the hearing itself was closed and we moved into deliberation.
Correct.
Thank you.
So then the first item on the worksheet for this requested zone change from rural 5 zoning to suburban zoning is Idaho Code 67-6511, where the board needs to determine to analyze the proposed changes to zoning ordinance to ensure that they are not in conflict with the policies of the adopted comprehensive plan. So with that, it sounds like Commissioner Corn, if you and I would go back and forth with our positions on that, Commissioner Williams can hear our deliberation, our positions, and then she can form an opinion of her own based on that. So would you like to start with your position on that one, sir?
So my position on this code is that it does, I checked the yes box, that we are ensuring that it's not in conflict with the policies of the comprehensive plan, because the comprehensive plan for this parcel is transition. We're in that transition period of going and changing the terms to mixed use. So I'm going to try to use the current terms. So it's in the transition designated area. So I find that since that is in the comp plan for that it does comply with the comp plan.
And I hold the other position. I'm saying it is in conflict with the specifically the policies of the comprehensive plan, not the land use designation, because I agree with you that the transition designation allows for a suburban zone to be assigned. But when I look at the policies of the comprehensive plan, under the public services, facilities, and utilities, policy 1, it says to encourage high-density development to take place within the boundaries of existing sewer and water areas. And it's my understanding from the record that the parcels being considered are not within an existing water or sewer district. And so I believe it does not comply with policy number 1 of the public services, facilities, and utilities component of the comprehensive plan. So for me, I have to answer no.
So that's part of our conflict here is we're going through currently our comp plan and our land use designation maps. And we've mapped out and we've agreed, I believe, at the last hearing that we had, that some of that corridor going down 95 is going to be designated mixed use, which does not have any of these utilities that you're speaking of in number 1 currently. will it be made available at some point in time? I'm sure it will be, especially as it develops into mixed-use opportunities, such as higher density housing or commercial properties and all that stuff. And I think, and you may want to reread that possibly, because I'm reading the suburban, I don't have the same thing that you're referring to, but in order for it to be designated suburban, it says that urban service capability, not currently available.
Yeah, I'm
So-
looking at specifically the policy language, which was what this part of the Idaho code references. Because that says, and it doesn't say must, it says encourage high-density development to take place within the boundaries of existing sewer and water areas.
Right, so doesn't say shall or
Correct.
must, it says encourage.
Correct.
So we can look at the applicant and say, we encourage you. Obviously, this is preliminary, this is nothing more than a zone change. If at some time they decide to go with a higher density urban development scenario, then that would be the time that we would require such services. Right now, it's doing nothing more than just changing the zone.
No,
That's how
understand.
that's how I look
Right,
at it. I'm not
understood.
looking, I have no idea what the plans are down the
Right.
road for this. Maybe they want to just rezone it so that they can market that parcel for a higher density housing development or something, not having any plans and us not knowing what their plans are other than what has been presented to us. It's just that zone change.
Understood, and that's why for me, just when it says to encourage, for it to take place within the boundaries of existing sewer and water areas, for me, what we would be doing is encouraging it to take place outside if we were to support it. So that's why I hold the opposite view of how to interpret that language. So I think we're just, interpreting it. I'm looking at current state compliance with the current language and the current condition as compared to future, what the future might be for the area.
So part of what has to happen is we have to look at what's in front of us, not what we might change something to. So I understand the comment from Commissioner Korn about what might change when we update the comprehensive plan, but the current decision is in line, it puts us in line with looking at this particular one. So when you look at the public service facilities and utilities, it doesn't just say to encourage that, it actually tells us how we do that, and the other items are not available because it's not within that boundary. And so when we're encouraging high-density development, which is what this is, it's within the boundaries. And the way in which we encourage that is we're going to seek a comment from an existing service provider on an ability. We don't have those options because it's not within that boundary. And so for those reasons, on the idea of, in terms of policies, not the table, but in terms of the policies, is this in line with the comprehensive plan policy on public service facilities and utilities? I check no on that because it is not within a boundary of an existing sewer and water area whereby the existing sewer and water area can identify that there's not a negative impact associated with the planned development in this area.
And that's where we differ, because we don't say, our code does not say what you just stated. It says that we encourage it. We're in a catch-22 situation by using our comp plan, and our comp plan is for the vision of Bonner County in the future. Why would somebody go down and start building infrastructure for higher density housing or for commercial properties, for mixed use? And I just did it, transitional, right? Why would I go down and start developing something like that if it was not on the radar and on the comp plan that that's the areas that were designated by the county for that to happen? So if those changes aren't there, then you're not going to have anybody go down and start, Southern Bonner County Utilities District. You're not going to get anybody to go down and start putting that infrastructure in until they can see that, look, we've got a block of properties and parcels that have been zoned and are ready to go. Now I see an opportunity to go down and start some kind of a public utilities district.
I think it's a difference of where the cart before the horse aspect of it, because do you put in the development of the people that have a reliance on services that have not been placed there, or do you require the infrastructure? Because this is also, if I recall, an unincorporated area where then that burden becomes shifted towards the county, because we have a different level of responsibility. And so by saying you must ensure that that is available, it's no different than saying that's part of development, is that you have to come with those services such that we are balancing the rights of all of the players, to include the person that wants to develop, the person that's next to development, and then all of the other people that are impacted by the increase in development, because that's how we balance ensuring that we're not benefiting one person over another person. And you're right that you have to have a project that encourages somebody to want to put in that infrastructure. But do you say, because your project can't encourage, we're just going to let you build it? Because then what do you do with the neighbor that's next to a development that doesn't have those services, that then is the recipient of the negative outcome if something goes wrong? Then that points towards not doing it the right way. It doesn't make it perfect. The reason it says encourage and not require is because you would not be able to move forward at all. It's here where you have that deliberation of, well, this is high density. And so high density is actually encouraged in the incorporated area where services are available that can be supported. Because when you go farther out away from services, the burden on all of the taxpayers increases for the benefit of the one person who sold and profited off of it. And that's where it tells us to encourage that growth in a certain area without saying required, so that it can be open to that consideration. That doesn't mean things won't change. It just means I have to balance those. But in terms of this question, it sounds like you have a 2-to-1. Does it meet the policy of the comprehensive plan with respect to public service facilities and utilities? And does this project encourage high-density development within the boundary of an existing sewer and water area, is also how you could kind of term that to you. You have a 2-to-1 saying this project doesn't encourage high-density development within the boundaries of an existing sewer and water area, and in part it doesn't do it because it can't, because it's not within the boundary. You could reword it that way.
Yeah. What I want to make clear, I guess, is what we're being asked for is a zone change today. And that is the project. It's not, to be clear, it's not about building a housing development, because we don't know what the intentions are or how many years down the road that might be. Right now, we're just being asked for a zone change. And again, I just feel like a little bit we're talking in circles. You don't want to put the cart before the horse, but yet no one's going to go down there. And this isn't going to, putting in a public utilities district doesn't cost the taxpayers money. Usually it's a private entity that's going to go in there. The Bonner County residents aren't paying for Sandpoint's sewer reclamation project or anything else. Or the many multiple public utility districts throughout the county in these small areas that use shared wells and sewer treatment systems. That is not a cost to the taxpayers. That's a cost to the people that sign up and use those services. So again, I kind of wanted to rebuke those statements there. And I just don't see how we're going to get any infrastructure along this corridor, which is currently in transition and will in the future be multi-use if we don't start allowing the first step, which is not building. It's literally putting it in the correct zoning so that people can move forward with developing those areas that we said they could develop in.
And I see your point, and for me, we have to work with the language that we have that is in place when this application came in. It's my hope and intent that the future language will better address those concerns, to have that capability, like you said, because of the planning that's going on for that 95 corridor. This is unfortunately, in my mind, a very awkward and unique situation where we have a land designation that doesn't align with the zone district that was given to these parcels. And And now I'm trying to just confirm that we have alignment with what the requirements are, and that's where I think we're just interpreting the comp plan language as far as the policies go a little bit differently.
I think I want to have a point of clarification on a comment that you made about who pays for infrastructure. And I think Laclede is a very good example. There are people that pay into a system that they actually are not hooked up to, but because there is the availability to use it, when Laclede actually had to build that system out, people were a fixed part, like a credit with a loan attached to them to have to contribute to. And so during that period of time in the county, that group of people that were still using their own wells had the complaint of, we're not even using it, why do I have to pay for it? And so it's not the way that you said it, that just because you're using it, those are the only ones paying for it, because that's not the case. And so I just wanted to give a point of clarification, because there's a whole group of people that had that same kind of comment, that they should be able to be removed from having to have their, I want to say it's fixed to their mortgages and loans associated with the build out when they needed more gallons per minute. It didn't matter whether you hooked up. It was that it was available to those properties that they had to pay. So I want to be careful on saying things like that, because from our perspective, this request is not to put in the infrastructure of existing sewer or water. This is about a zone change for a project. Sometimes those services that get put in have people paying that are not hooked up to it or using it. 'Cause we'll get flooded with people from Laclede saying, we were told we didn't have to pay.
So for IC 67-6511, I'm noting at this point that Commissioner Korn is a yes, it's in compliance. Commissioner Williams is a no, it's not in compliance. And Commissioner Domke is a no, it's not in compliance.
Correct.
The next one on the worksheet is Bonner County Revised Code 12-215, whether the application and the documentation provided by the applicant sufficiently meets the applicant content criteria, if I can say that correctly. Commissioner Korn?
Yes.
I thought it was.
And I'm also a yes, accepting the conclusions of the staff report that the application was deemed complete. Bonner County Revised Code 12-216, whether there is adequate evidence that the proposal is not in conflict with the policies of the comprehensive plan as found in the adopted implementation component. This is essentially a county code restatement of the Idaho code we just deliberated on.
I would think that'd be a fair statement.
So I think we're going to have the same outcome there. Are the commissioners in agreement that our positions are the same?
Yes.
And then Bonner County Revised Code 12-323B2, whether the parcel in question meets the requirements for the Rural 5 zoning district. Commissioner Korn?
I checked the yes box on that.
Commissioner Williams?
So on this one, there is a state of flux, but it does meet R5.
So I'm actually a no on this one. This is why this one's so complicated in my mind, because I'm saying it's a no because it's not designated in the comp plan as rural residential land use designation.
I'm sorry. I'm a no vote on that.
Okay. So Commissioner Korn is a no.
Let me see here of what. I'm going to go to the table here.
Okay. And this is part of why for me this one's complicated, because when I look at the detailed list of criteria, I'm a yes. But when you look at what the comp plan designation is, it doesn't align.
So you believe that it's zoned, it meets the requirements for Rule 5 or not?
For all the criteria except for the fact that it needs to be rural residential land use designation. So the other requirements, I'd say yes, but one of the requirements, to my understanding, is it also has to be designated on the comp plan map as rural residential, and it's not. It's designated as transition.
Right.
And so,
I guess the reason I'm answering the question saying yes is because the designation on the map versus does it meet the requirements? And so to me, it meets the requirements of the R5. Is it a map issue of the residential aspect of it? Because the question is the 5 in terms of, because we have it where we come across it and say, well, the map, there needs to be a map amendment or there needs to be a change on that regard. And I guess that's where I interpret this as, because when you go on B2 in the staff report, they say R5 in areas designated residential in the comp plan that are already developed at or near.
But it's not in the R5 comp plan.
But the question is a zone. The question is the zone, which is the legal part of it, versus the comp plan, which can have some errors based on, or
yeah, this is why this one's complex in my mind, because I feel like we can't check all the boxes on either one, is my issue.
I'm gonna leave it at R5.
So you're yes.
Yeah. And I'm gonna say it's based on the fact that in terms of R5, it is low density residential that are compatible with rural pursuits, that are accomplished by limiting residential densities and permitting uses that are compatible with the rural character and nearby resource production districts and sites, allowing small-scale farming, forestry, encouraging conservation development configurations, and use of the zone is appropriate in areas that are designated. It doesn't restrict it. It says it's appropriate in areas designated as rural residential. It doesn't restrict it. And so that's
Doesn't say
gonna,
must be.
yeah, and that is gonna be my argument for why I can say that it is in compliance, because it says it's appropriate in these areas. It doesn't have a required definition attached to it like a shall. And so
Okay.
for those reasons, I will argue that it is in compliance with that zone.
And I would argue just the opposite, that would be hard to argue that that parcel and the surrounding area is rural character when I could throw a rock and hit Highway 95 with it. And in the comp plan, we have that currently and in the future designated for a higher density housing, commercial, light industrial, all that good stuff. So that is not of rural character. So that would be my argument against that.
For me, it's, I guess, between the two of you. In essence, when you look at the fact it's prime ag soils, you can do agricultural pursuits there. I believe it could appropriately remain rural residential. I'm sorry, R5, but I can't say that it meets all the criteria, because I believe that the intent is that it be rural residential designation in the comp plan. But we do currently have, as well as your position about the future state that's intended of the comp plan map, we have a lot of areas where rural residential abuts mixed use or transition. We have to have transition lines. So I don't agree that it's not appropriate for rural residential or R5 use because there's transition adjacent to it, but I can't just check the box and say it's fully compliant with R5 when I look at the not being designated as rural residential in the comp plan.
So would
on
that be a
one-
1 yes and a 2 no?
Yes, correct.
I know.
And then the last item on the worksheet is Bonner County Revised Code 12-324, whether the parcel in question meets the requirements for the suburban zoning district. So Commissioner Corn?
I'm a yes on that. I've been arguing that the whole hearing. I'm not going to change my vote on this, sir. Sorry.
And would you like me to present my position first, Commissioner Williams?
Sure.
So I am a no on that one because the parcels are not served by urban water or sewer. No water or sewer districts exist in the area. The record has no evidence that urban water or sewer can be provided in the near future. Also, Hatcher Road is a gravel road, not a hard surface road. So the transportation infrastructure requirement has not been met, in my opinion.
For me, the served by network of hard surface roads and urban service capability are not met.
Okay, so Commissioner Corn is a yes. Commissioner Williams is a no. And so this is the difficulty, right? So then as we go down through, really, we have something that's currently zoned R5. It's being requested to be changed to the suburban zone. But based on each of our positions, we have two commissioners saying it doesn't comply with either. So my position is it already has a zoning designation or a zoning district assigned to it, R5. For me to make a change, I have to be compelled that the requested new zoning district, it meets all the criteria. And so I acknowledge that I don't believe it fully meets the criteria for either. But I believe it meets far more of the criteria for R5 than it does for suburban. So my position is it's better for it to remain in its current zone of R5 because it more closely aligns with that use than it does, in my opinion, with the suburban use. When I go down and look at the criteria. So it's not a clear cut for me because I can't positively say yes to one and no to the other. But when I compare the two and have to play the balancing game, I believe R5 is a more appropriate zone. So I think it's better for it to remain in that zone.
Do I even need to say anything?
It's probably good to hear your position officially.
I disagree,
We're used to it.
officially.
Officially,
Keep
why
it
do you
simple.
disagree?
For all the reasons stated earlier.
So if I speak, you're not going to say anything after I speak, is what you're saying?
Oh, no, I reserve the right to speak at any time during the hearing.
Okay,
So what you got?
well, so on this one, the request is to review for a change. And so if I'm going to look at objectively, if I were to say, even though I took the position that I feel that it fits R5, if I were to say, should it be changed to suburban, what you can't get past for me is what the items that it's lacking to be suburban are intended to address development in a responsible way, which is inclusive of the service. It's an increase in density, and that we clearly can see that it does not have currently. And so whether or not that changes somewhere down the line is down the line, but for the current request of does it meet suburban, it doesn't meet suburban. There isn't a network and there is no service compatibility confirmation. That doesn't exist if we were to change it. And so remaining the way that it is the most reasonable position to be in if I were to concede the position that because it's not the comment about the rural residential comp plan designation, that compared to the items that are within the suburban designation that it does not meet, to me, the error on the side of the current zoning is appropriate because it doesn't support, the current situation doesn't support the change. And so it's not, it happens all the time that development says that after further development within an area, things will become available that might make a designation available that wasn't available at a particular point in time in the past. Doesn't mean that I make that change now. I have to make sure that I can check those boxes because the reason suburban requires those things has to do with the increased density and the additional, there is an element of the burden to the taxing area of what it costs to maintain this area. And so that's in part, I think, why it does say the hard surface aspect of it, because look how, when you look at road and bridges and how much it takes for us to go back and hit another road that we just messed with, you're increasing the burden on all of us to increase the footprint in a particular area that increases the density without that element there, and it gets pushed on to all of the taxpayers, which goes back to that element of not increasing for one at the cost of the many. So at this time, my position would be that the current designation of Rule 5 is appropriate. A change to suburban is not appropriate at this time, as it clearly doesn't meet the elements to be suburban at this time.
Yeah, I'll say something. You're looking at me. I know you want a response.
I wouldn't want anything less.
I know. So we're still in deliberation. Evidently, we're not voting. So I'm just going to say that I do believe that it's access with a network of roads. State Highway 95 runs past the property within probably a couple hundred yards of it. I believe it's Cocolala Loop that's paved that runs just to the south of that. So, yeah, within a minute, I could be on a state highway. As far as the utilities, I think we've already gone through that. I don't see how changing this zone from rural 5 to commercial, suburban, is going to affect the taxpayers one bit. For that argument that it might, I don't think we should make decisions on what may or may not happen. This is literally, and I'm going to just say this for the last time, this is literally just a zone change. I've heard that the development and stuff, we're not being presented with a development or a plan or anything else at this time. We're merely being presented with a zone change. There's parcels, neighboring parcels to this parcel that is being presented to us that already is zone suburban, and it hasn't cost the taxpayers any money for utility districts or anything else. So that's my stance. Not that I need the last word. You can go ahead and rebut me, and then I'll just be quiet, I promise.
I'm good.
What?
Would a commissioner like to make a motion? How about that?
Okay. I make the motion that we go ahead and approve this file. That wasn't the one you were looking for.
Well, what?
You
Go
have,
ahead.
you have the,
Make the
you may
motion.
do so.
Yeah.
You have to now. You said I make the motion. Now read all your stuff and see if you get a second.
You wouldn't second it just for further?
Sure. Are you done?
I am.
Okay. I move to deny this project file ZC 0002-25 requesting a zone change from Rural 5 to suburban on approximately 5 and 6.56 acres, generally located in Section 5, Township 55 North, Range 2 West, Boise Meridian, Bonner County, Idaho, based upon the following conclusions. The proposal is in conflict with the policies of the Bonner County Comprehensive Plan as identified by two out of one commissioners. See, I helped you out there.
2 out of 3.
2 out of 3.
Okay.
2 out of 3 commissioners.
2 out of 1. That's Common Core math, by the way, folks.
Look, the proposal was reviewed for compliance with Title 12 Bonner County Revised Code and is found to be not in compliance. Conclusion 3, the proposal is not in accord with the purpose of the suburban zoning designation provided by Chapter 3, Title 12 Bonner County Revised Code. The decision is based upon the evidence submitted up to the time of the staff report being prepared and testimony received during the first hearing and second hearing's deliberation. I further move to adopt the reasoned statement as discussed in deliberation at this hearing and the analysis as set forth in the staff report or as amended during this hearing, and direct planning staff to draft the reasoned statement to reflect this motion as set forth Idaho Code Section 676536. Have the chair sign and transmit to all interested parties. This action does not result in a taking of private property.
I'll step down in second. Any further board deliberation?
Not for me, thanks.
Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Donkey,
Yes?
Commissioner Williams,
Yes?
Commissioner Corn,
No.
Motion passes. It is 2:02 PM and this hearing is adjourned.